The team is FUBU Environmental Services. There is arrangements, but FUBU still owns the property. We're hoping within the next month or so that the developer, who is my client, Northwoods Real Estate Ventures, will be taking full ownership. Part of that deals with some of the environmental BCP brownfield cleanup program logistics that they are working through between FUBU and Northwoods Real Estate Ventures. The developer's attorneys, Bon Shonky King, Kathleen Bennett, she was with me 3 or 4 years ago when we were before the boards themselves. Again, Nadine here with the tenant attorney from Costello firm. Other pieces to the puzzle of our consulting team, we had a traffic consultant in as well, project architect, who was helping through. What I have been doing is bringing everyone back up to speed because it has been a little bit of time. We received planning board approval in December of 2022. It has, from that point forward, went through a legal discussion, 3 years of legal conversations. As of November or October of this year, those legal obligations have been cleared and the development has been asked to move forward. The development itself deals with a building restoration program, putting in a grocery store tenant within the bounds of the existing former Accurate Die, former O'Brien and Gear building. A little more detail of did I already go? What I must have hit. I wanted to kind of go little detail of that site plan so we can get a little bit closer look. What we're asking for tonight is for 3 particular sign locations. The first sign location is over the main entry door. That'll include a wall sign and what we're calling is an icon sign, is a logo sign. It'll include what I call a way sign or a nameplate sign by code, kind of giving directions to customers. And then we're asking for by the road, within our bounds of property, a monument sign. What we are doing here is noting that the main sign is 460 feet from Genesee Street and it is facing the parking lot. It is not facing Genesee Street. There's no signage facing Genesee Street other than the monument sign itself. It is appropriately scaled for the size of the building. But again, when you look at where that main sign is and you look at the proximity to Genesee Street compared to the commercial entities that exist along Genesee Street, that sign again is 460 feet away from Genesee Street. What I wanted to present is back in 2022, during the planning board discussions, in our presentations to the planning board in November of 22, we've got approval in December. We presented to the planning board at their request what signage we were asking for. So at that point in time, prior to approval, there was a logo and a wall sign over the entry door as we're proposing today. At that time, this is the, it's a grocery pickup door, but there was no nameplate sign shown at that the time of the approval in 2022. So I show that now that that's where that nameplate sign is proposed on the overall building elevation. So in, again, a little bit more detail of what that looks like. This was what was presented to the planning board, of which the planning board said, yeah, that looks good. And if you recall, if you were familiar with what happened, we were going through some significant scrutiny with the planning board. It took us about 15 months from start to end to get through the planning board process in 21 and 22. At that time, we showed in 22, we showed a logo sign facing Genesee Street on the south elevation of the building. The tenant's no longer asking for that. That is no longer a part of the package. So there's no signage facing Genesee Street on the south wall of this proposed building. So now, what are we asking for and what are we dealing with? So again, the scale of that building, and this is somewhat a graphic of to scale, doesn't even show the full length of that building. That's that signage over the main entry door that we're talking about. So that is the wall sign. And that is the logo entity.
Those are the variances 1, 2, and 3 that I've referenced on the handouts I just gave you.
So one thing, and Nadine might get into this, is still at this point in time, the tenant is still not locked in. The tenant is still with us after all this time, but the tenant does not wish to announce themselves publicly and in any public words or entities. So what we've asked, knowing where we had to go with signage, the signage that we are proposing is the exact color, the size of those letters, and the number of letters, but does not say the actual words that will be provided once the arrangements and agreements are finalized. The box logo, of which coloration, those colors that you see in that box are the colors that will be in that final logo. Although they will be in some form that doesn't look like a box, it'll be a representative that they show for their actual branding logo. But that box has the colors, and as Mike Jones will tell you, when he measures that sign, it's X and Y, so that's why it's a rectangular box. The final logo will not be a rectangular box. For your purposes, the dimensional criteria of that logo and the overall lengths, letter heights and such is as will be provided at the future point in time. Just again, identifying the channel letter sizing, the icon logo sign, and the nameplate sign, as code calls it, a nameplate sign. Again, a little bit more detail of that, and I talk about now what are those dimensional pieces. So when we look at code, the maximum length, the horizontal length of a channel letter size is 25 feet. We're showing this as 25 feet and a half inch, or half inch. So we are needing a relief for a half inch on length of that logo signage. The maximum letter height by Village of Fayetteville code is 12-inch letter height. Because the scaling of the building and where we're located on that building, we are asking for that letter height to be 4 feet or 48 inches. So we're asking for a relief of 36 inches for letter height. And again, that's really the capital letter. The other letters are reduced, but again, according to that box that Mike Jones will tell us, we have to ask for the 4-foot height or the 3-foot relief.
That's variance number 2.
Thank you. The what icon logo box itself has a it doesn't really define well in code, but the reality of how we've interpreted it in talking to code office is you go back to that 12-inch height or letter height. So this particular height, my eyes aren't as good as that 5 foot 4 inches, as I recall yet.
Yep.
So at 5 foot 4 inches is what we are proposing. 12 inches is allowed. So we're asking for relief of the size of that icon logo sign.
Variance number 3.
And as well, just to be clear, and I'm sure you've seen the notes from the planning board. In the planning board's review and recommendations, they felt both the letter height and the logo were too large. They wanted other alternatives. We asked them to continue to pass this on to the ZBA for discussion. So the planning board did not agree with those variances dealing with those two pieces. The nameplate sign, again by code, has a required letter height of 9 inches, so a little bit smaller on nameplate size. We are asking for 1 foot 2 3/4 inch, and again that deals with and again the lettering will be like this, all lowercase on that final sign, but because of the letters that will drop down, it's a little bit bigger than 1 foot or 12 inches. So we're asking for relief on letter height by the nameplate sign. And as well, a nameplate sign has a maximum length of 18 inches we are asking that nameplate sign be 8'7" and 15/16. And the planning board reviewed that nameplate sign, and as well, this is directional signage for customers coming to this store. They agreed with, did not have a problem with the nameplate sign themselves.
Those are variances 4 and 5.
The monument sign out at the entry road, again, within our property limits. Will have both the name and the logo on that monument sign itself. I have the criteria, and the planning board asked that the base of that sign, we had some other stone, that base of that sign make sure is consistent with the materials of the building. So that is Casa de Sasa precast stone veneer Tennessee gray. That was a particular requirement that the planning board asked us to provide. The relief that we're looking for the monument sign is that the maximum sign area is 6 foot. We are asking for 21.38, and the maximum height of a monument sign being 5 foot or 60 inches. We are asking for just over 6 foot, so 76 and a little bit of height. So a variance of about 14 inches or so.
Those are variances 6 and 7.
And then the last piece is village code says you can get one. You can get a wall sign or you can get a monument sign, but you can't get both. We're asking for a total of 4 signs on this 16-acre property. Village code allows 1, so therefore we're asking for relief to get 3 signs. What I wanted to do is we talk about neighborhood character, and we talk about what is our neighborhood and what is out there today. Right across the street from our particular property is the Honda property, recently approved by the planning board, and I'm assuming this board through their signage itself. They have a logo piece sitting right facing Genesee Street. They have lettering to the left and lettering to the right. When we looked at what that is, the building and signage is within 30 feet of Genesee Street. Again, we are 460 feet back with our main sign. This particular new building really received a significant number of variances themselves, I believe around 8 as well. It dealt with the size of the letters, the size of the logo, the length of signage, the height limitation, and as well the number of signage. So not only do you have the front signage, but you have you've got nameplate signs, if you wanted to call that, and then another logo sign, as well as some other directional signage. Nothing against what they're doing, but just again, far as identifying character of a neighborhood. The other area, and we acknowledge the fact that Tracy Lumber is in the town of Manlius. We acknowledge that, but it is our neighbor, so it's a part of the neighborhood. I don't think anyone who drives up and down the street will understand that's outside the village. But with that, you have a significant nameplate sign or a signage exceeding height and letter height and all of that. Again, not under this jurisdiction, but it goes to the character of the neighborhood. So that's what my words on my slide are to deal with that. When we look at the post office, our direct neighbor to the west, we measured their sign. Their sign's about equivalent to what we have, just under 7 foot tall. So their signage, and again, I think the planning board said, well, the federal government doesn't care about the village code anyway. Doesn't matter, character neighborhood. Their monument sign is larger than code allows. And as well, they have their signage exceeding length and exceeding the letter size, I think is okay. But again, when we talk about signage and what the neighborhood looks like. So the other one I wanted to look at was the Circle K to our east. When we look at the Circle K, their wall sign conforms. Their monument sign that sits over here somewhat conforms, although that's too. I do in my other life a lot of convenience stores, and in different jurisdictions we look at a lot of things. When you look at the Circle K, you have signage over the top of the dispenser and below the dispenser on both sides. You have these type of signs on both sides of each dispenser. So albeit, again, I'm not a code guy, but when I say character of the neighborhood, you say, well, how many signs are out there? Those are all signs. And in other jurisdictions, I have to count those signs to when I talk about how we go about getting variances, or does it conform to code or not. So albeit, I don't want Mike Jones to go knocking on Circle K's door, but for our case, to identify, this is our character of our neighborhood, and this is a great number of signs that exist with regards to our neighborhood, our neighbor to the west.
I don't mean to interrupt, but those signs are already taken down.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
I didn't want you doing that. Jeez, Mike. Now I'm gonna get a bad name. Whoops, wrong button. So that's kind of what my words are here. So in summary, and Ted's giving you the numbers, this table is somewhat what you're seeing there in the table. And with regards to the channel letter signage, the relief of a 1/2 inch, the letter height relief of 36 inches, the icon sign, the height of relief of 52 inches, the nameplate sign, the letter height and the length, the freestanding monument sign, the square footage and the maximum height, and the total number of signage. That's the relief we're asking for. I'm gonna somewhat turn it over to Nadine right now to talk about the 5 criteria and let her give you our responses to the criteria. And from that point, turn it back over for the public. So the balancing test, number 1, whether the, and it's. I'm just gonna answer the question. I'm just gonna answer questions you.
I'm joking.
Whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by granting the variance.
Okay, so initially I will just note that, a week ago, there was submitted a supplemental narrative that all this is in. So you already have it as part of your materials. But just for the benefit of the public hearing, I'm gonna go through these items. But perhaps not with the depth that's in the materials that were submitted, but I'll just touch base on them because these are the criteria that we are stuck with by statute. I tried looking at. So I would submit to you, and some of this is going to be, I apologize in advance, it's gonna be a little repetitive. But we're talking about property that's located on East Genesee Street in Route 5 in the village's industrial district. What we are proposing, I would submit, is consistent with the village's comprehensive plan, which has identified the area previously as a transitional space. And now with the updated comprehensive plan, this area is vacant and undeveloped land, and it's intended to become the upper business district. That's what the recommendation is, to accommodate a variety of building sizes and footprints that recognize the variability of uses that may call for larger or smaller parcels. The intent of that new upper business district that they want to create is to focus on New York State Route 5 and encouraging mix of commercial, civic, and public uses. So when we're looking at the neighborhood and its character, respectfully, the design and scale of what's being proposed for this grocery store is consistent with the character of an upper business district that's been recommended by the comprehensive plan and as part of the approved grocery store structure. We're requesting relief. I won't go through it all. You've heard it extensively. You've got paperwork regarding this. The grocery store, as Matt has touched on, is quite a ways off the road. Like, why that's important is not so much regarding the size of the signage structure, but more making sure there's safe access onto the property. There are 2 accesses. Points of access onto this property off of Route 5. There's a main one though. And having a monument sign that is of sufficient size on it that is appropriate is important. It's critical that people know where that main entrance is. It is consistent not only with what the structure is on site, which admittedly is a little farther back, but as Matt noted, the stone is elsewhere in the community. I believe Splash Car Walk was part of the reason why they specifically asked for that Tennessee whatever stone. Thank you. So it's 6 foot 4 inches. Your code allows for 5. So we are just a little over it, but it's not all signage, right? Some of that is the case, and again, to make sure visibility in the highly trafficked road. One of the things I know that's been brought up as a concern previously is the lighting. So there is no internal lighting. It is all external. It's within the stone cap ridge and it's recessed. And in fact, one of the things that came from the planning board is to make sure that it's recessed sufficiently so there is no glare. So lighting is not an issue because it will just, it's all LED downward cast. Glare is not going to be emitted from something that's been recessed up. So, because the structure faces eastward, given the placement of the sign, the location of the two entrances, I would submit to you that there's not going to be any change in the character of the neighborhood by having a 6 foot, approximately 6 foot monument sign at the front location. Regarding, and it's consistent with what's along this business, this mixed use.
Can I ask that we put the big site plan up? As you're speaking to,
Now regarding, I'm gonna actually talk about this sign now, if you want me to do this.
well, let's go back to the site plan so everybody knows where that monument sign is located.
I think it's at the very,
Actually, I should have.
there. So it's at the main entrance, the preferred, I guess is how you.
That's about where the current monument sign is for O'Brien and Gear's spot. It's in about the same location.
It's gotta be fairly close.
Fairly close, because this is somewhat near the entry to Robert Paul's former accountant building.
Yeah, so it's in the ballpark where the
In
existing one
ballpark of
is.
That area. A little bit further to the east, because when we get that signalized entry, that's gonna be a three lane wide entry, so, you know, we're improving that for that traffic flow.
Will there be a light there?
Yes, so the signalized intersection here, that was part of the preliminary review with DOT, so that hasn't been finalized yet, but DOT has endorsed this particular plan, which includes a what the acronym is, a twiddle lane, that opposing left turn lane from this location down to Fayetteville Square will be a center turn lane. And then at that point, there will be a signal. There'll be a little bit of lane adjustment in front of the post office. So there'll be significant amount of highway work at that point in time.
So regarding the walls, I don't know if you wanna go to that or not, because
Yeah, go ahead.
if it just helps with with explaining. So again, the structure that's been approved is 57,000 square feet. The signage that's proposed is right for the wall sign with the icon is right over the main entrance. Is right over the main entrance of the property. As proposed, he's gone over the size. What was initially proposed as part of our variance package was larger sign, with larger lettering, larger icon, and it was further up on the gable end. It's been shifted down by 2 feet, and the first letter has been reduced by 6 inches, as have all the letters that follow. So it's been reduced, and it's been a little more recentered. And now has, from what was originally proposed, it has the external lights with those boosting black external lighting. Again, no internal illumination, which we know is prohibited in your village. There was a lot of discussion, frankly, before the planning board about whether or not, once you're in a parking lot, whether or not you need signage over the door of that size. I would submit to you, when you have a 57,000 square foot structure, if you had lettering that complied, the nameplate, can you show that? No, can you show like the whole thing with the entire front? So if you look, what's the nameplate lettering? That's 12 inches. That would be what we're allowed over the front, the main entrance. Which frankly would look ridiculous to have 12-inch lettering over the main entrance of the sign or main entrance of the door, if that was our signage. So I would submit to you that it's proportionate, it's in scale. It's consistent with branding, it's consistent with the store's logo. And yes, we need area variance to be icon. But the reality is it's an icon. It's not a lot more lettering with the traditional signage as you would think of that. So regarding the nameplate sign, that's directional. That's groceries here. That is to make sure in our new world where you can pick up your groceries at the side door, which I'll admit I have not yet used that service, but it's very popular. It's imperative to have that. So with the size of the building, the architectural design of the building, what's being proposed, and the fact that it is facing eastward, as was discussed at length before the planning board, it's not visible from the road. So there won't be a negative impact on the rest of the surrounding neighborhood. In fact, if you go back to what was done as part of the planning board's environmental review years ago, when they looked at noise, when they looked at lighting, when they looked at all of those impacts as part of that secret process, one of the things they noted was the natural barrier around this property that prohibits any impact on the surrounding properties. So I would submit to you, it's not going to have any impact on the immediate surrounding properties. And to the extent that you have a structure and you have a architectural style that is consistent with that and architecturally pleasing. What is the next benefit two?
Sorry, one moment. No, it's fine. Whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance.
So as we've discussed, the 2022 structure approved. We are approved within limitations. We are facing eastward. We have a footprint that we cannot expand beyond. These are things we can't change. These are things that exist. These are limitations that we have. So given the odd irregular shape of the structure, given the access off the road, how it has, these are all restraints within which we're working. So I would submit to you that to still have signage on a structure that's 57,000 square feet size, to have it where it's proper and as far as wayfaring at the front and appropriate, there is not absent. We can't still achieve having a separate door with an entrance for groceries to be picked up and have anybody know it if we don't have a sign. If we don't have a sign out front, knowing that there's a structure several hundred feet back and what that structure is, what the use is for, is unknown. So having the number of signs is appropriate. Having the size of signs, again, I would suggest is also appropriate. And that all those issues of the approvals that we have and the limitations we're facing, I would submit to you that there is not another method by which this can be achieved. And I will also say, one of the things the planning board has said, well, can't you come up with some other things? And one of the suggestions was, well, maybe you don't want to have the sign, the name sign with the icon over the main entrance. Maybe you have it somewhere else on the front of the building. Maybe you put it up on the top. And at that point, quite frankly, I said, I can't go back to my client. If I do go back to my client and say the board wants to see a proposal with your main name somewhere else on the front of that facade, my client's gonna say that that's not something, you can't do that. There's no retail structures that want the name of your building or the name of your business tucked in at the top of the corner or not over your main entrance. So when we were asked if there were alternatives, we could come back with something different. We can try to listen to what they can propose. And that's what is for us now.
Whether the requested area variance is substantial.
So I would submit to you, no, not when considered within the context of existing site conditions. When we look at what the approved grocery store structure is, when we establish precedent that's been created by property as close as across the street, and the area variances that have been granted, and the village's own planning and design limitations, when you take that in totality, I would say that these are not substantial. We have a request for 4 signs on an almost 33-acre parcel for a grocery store of 57,000 square feet with minimal visibility. The monument sign is not significant of a significant size. It's not substantial and offensive or intrusive. It doesn't present any kind of traffic hazards. or site distance issues. And the signage, again, like I said, I know this is repetitive, but I'm just trying to address all this criteria. The signage on the structure is appropriate. So when you look at it in its totality, it's not substantial. And again, if you look at what that nameplate sign would actually look like, if we were doing comparison to over a front door, it's not a real. It's not, I hate to say it, just ridiculous. It's so, yeah, it's not. Next item.
Whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district.
So grocery stores are traditionally located in areas near residential and light commercial development. Again, when we look at the proposed signage in its totality, it won't adversely affect the physical and environmental conditions. In fact, the planning board, even though the planning board, as Matt had said, they had recommended the nameplate, they recommended the monument sign, and they were not in favor of that wall sign for icon. They even acknowledged when they did a brief review of these criteria that there wasn't going to be any physical or environmental conditions, negative impacts on that within the neighborhood. Particularly when you think about the fact that the structure is eastward facing off the road with limited, or not limited, but with the barriers around it.
Last one. Whether the alleged difficulty will self-created and as well in the state mandate, it does have this paragraph. Which consideration shall be relevant to the decision of the Board of Appeals, but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of the area variances.
Well, and that truthfully, yes, that last little sentence in Lorenz is applicable, but frankly, the entire thing is a balancing test, right? So you're looking at all the criteria and you're balancing them. Anybody can argue, yes, this is self-created because you can comply. Can you put up a sign over the front door that's 12 inches high? Of course, that could be done. But that's what the purpose of the Arizona Board of Appeals is, to evaluate and decide whether or not that is appropriate. Again, this is a neighborhood where the property has transitioned to an area that is residential with mixed commercial uses. The property, this is something not to lose sight of, it's an industrial property. It's a vacant structure, it's an eyesore, and it was previously a much more intense use. As far as not maybe traffic, but or people coming and going, but from an industrial standpoint, industrial uses are always considered the most lenient of zoning regulations. And have the least restrictions. Again, it's going to be set back a significant number of feet off of Route 5, and there is no functional road frontage to speak of for purposes of visibility. So having that monument sign we would submit is necessary, to the point that is that a self-created hardship to actually leave the monument sign on front? I would say no. And again, it's already been stated that the signage as proposed is appropriate for the use, the size of the structure, and even within the upper business district area that this is slated to.
So that's our presentation. We're here to answer any questions of the board. We'll let you proceed with your public hearing. Thank you.
Motion to open the public hearing.
So
Second.
All those in favor? Aye, unanimous. All right. Go ahead, Marguerite.
Thank you.
I do think, although I don't agree with you, Ms. Bell, I do think, you presented your points very well. You know, it's really a problem for citizens when last minute stuff is turned in. We don't have a chance to look at it or anything else. So I just doing the best that I can to speak germanely to the application. I'm Marguerite Ross. I own a home at 108 Kemet Lane, which is adjacent to the property. one of my neighbors, my same street, is here tonight. I don't know that he wants to speak, but I don't only speak for myself. Because I'm working with my neighbors, et cetera, of course. The major, and there's so much that I would like to say, but I want to stay on point. This has been, for 10 years, I've been monitoring Club very, very closely, both from the DEC cleanup standpoint and from which the village hasn't paid much attention to. But also, of course, before the planning board, the zoning board previously, et cetera, et cetera. 10 years, first it was an apartment complex, then it's a supermarket. Supermarket, the first time, there's gonna be new construction. Second time, supposedly renovation of the existing building. Not, but the, I'm sorry, I made a few notes. I wish I could submit written testimony, typed up, et cetera, et cetera. I'd like to be part of the record that what I'm presenting to you, but it was not possible. I think you could hear me better with that rate. I'm sorry, I've got so many papers, et cetera, and I'm looking for the notes that I specifically want to speak from. Okay, here they are. So in a nutshell, I would urge the zoning board of appeals to deny the area variances. The great majority, if not everyone. Basically, because the applicant has presented no good reason, no compelling reason that they should be allowed to deviate so drastically. So completely, it's off the wall, off the charts, how much difference they're asking for than the code allows. So they haven't cited, if you really think about it, if you really analyze it, which I hope you will do, there's no good reason there that they presented. But I would submit that even if they had done it all, they should not be granted relief for a generic anonymous sign that they won't say what it is. A sign says the name of the business. Why is that a secret? I think they've mentioned why it's a secret, because, or Mr. Napierla did, they're not fully committed yet. And they can back off if they don't get what they want. So they prefer to stay anonymous for the time being. But we're way late in the process, you know, and it's signs, which the whole purpose of a sign is to say the name of your business. So I think that's an important point, which is compelling to the planning board, by the way. They have indicated they will not issue a sign permit to an anonymous sign. That will not happen. They don't presume to say whether or not the zoning board could or could not do that, but they will not do that. So you're done right there. If you won't divulge the name and you don't come back later sometime in the future after you've already got your approvals and say, oh, by the way, this is who we are. Everybody knows who it is. But anyway, okay, so I submit that in order for the applicant to be granted area variances that they're asking for, they must prove by clear, definite facts that the benefit that they stand to receive will outweigh the harm to our community that will be caused by excessive deviation from the village standards. And I want to go into, for a minute, what are the clear and definite facts that are relevant here? What are they? I could readily demonstrate that a lot of the things that they say are not accurate. And I think that somebody needs to state what the facts actually are. And I'm trying to do that because I think you deserve to know. Everybody deserves to know what is the truth. It comes to play in this consideration because, in my view, if you do not know what the true facts are, the circumstances are, you can't make a determination about whether a hardship is self-created or not. Because if they're saying that the circumstances are X and the circumstances actually are Y, where do you go with that? You can't make the determination, in my view. So I want to lay out.
Yeah, if you would, Marguerite, get to the facts you want to establish.
Do I have a time limit?
That's up to the board chairman, I think.
I do have a question for you, because you made a comment about harm and detriment to the neighborhood. So I wanted to ask you, because you have a concern, I'd like to know what that concern is. So what is the harm or detriment to the neighborhood by granting these variances? What are the specific harms that we should consider? Because just randomly saying that it's going to harm the neighborhood doesn't help me any. But saying it's going to harm the neighborhood because, you know, cars are going to crash into the building, that's something I can listen to and understand. So can you tell me what the hardship is that you're talking about? Because you keep referring to the hardship, but you're not telling me what the hardship
Harm.
is or the harm.
But I would love to answer that question if I could, just for a minute. I did try to prepare something, specifically respond to the 5 criteria, the 5 tests. Started down that road, and then I realized and did get somewhere, but I realized that what I think is the most important is to establish the circumstances, the facts surrounding, the context, etc. And I will, if allowed now tonight, after I would make a quick list of those facts, or whenever, I would love to answer that question as best as I could. But may I please state several facts? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, the 547 East Genesee Street property abuts East Genesee Street. As you can see from the slide, half of it is right there, right on the front. Second fact.
Half of what is on the front?
The property owned by Fubu that the developer is proposing to build the supermarket on is, can you point it out, Matt? I guess you wouldn't. See that gray area? That's not their property.
Here, the green,
No, well,
that's
But
what's
it's a-
fronting, that's what's fronting on East Genesee Street.
that's
This
fronting
piece,
on East Genesee Street on that side and all the way over on the other
And
side.
then that is there our front.
Half of, at least half is fronting on the street of the property. That other parcel,
Properties fronting on Genesee Street?
I think what she's trying to say is the part that's on Genesee Street, half is theirs and half is the old lawyer's building. Is that what you're trying to say?
I think it's a little more than half.
Well, whatever,
that gets-
but that's the general gist of what you're trying to say.
Yes, but that brings me to another fact, okay? there's no reason, there's no necessity for the developer not to acquire that property. It's for sale. He would love to sell it. The owner would love
You're,
to sell.
you're drifting off the point, because what the developer wants to do or doesn't want to do is their purview for business. Putting a grocery store there, some people would say it's not necessary because you have Tops and Wegmans down the street, but the business
Yes.
owners decided that it's profitable to put it there and he wants to put it there. That's their decision, not ours. So whether he wants to buy that property or not is not relevant to this conversation.
So I take your point, but I would suggest that they refer to their different constraints and limitations. And what I want to say or to suggest to you is it's self-created because they decided what they wanted to do. So they decided, so that ties into the argument about whether they deserve relief or not, because they decided not to, whatever reason, not to acquire that property. They
But-
could have built the supermarket right down. the street.
They got these approvals 3 years ago. This property went up for sale a month ago.
Well, the other
So
question,
it's, I mean, that's a moot point right now.
yeah, and the other question,
They did sell
no, but
That it went for sale a month ago. These approvals went through.
2
3
months
years-
ago or 3 months
Okay,
ago.
but these approvals went through 3 years ago.
Well,
but-
they could have
so-
bought it back
the-
2 or 3.
Marguerite,
I'm sorry.
not to argue, but even if that property, when they bought it, all these variances would still be in play. And all of the arguments against it would still be in play regardless of that piece of property. So I don't see how that piece of property is relevant to any of these discussions in regards to these variances.
Okay, my point is that the proposed supermarket can and could be, they don't want to, but it could be built along the frontage of the street. You'd have no issue with visibility or anything
That's
else.
all been
That-
approved and done.
that's
Got
not-
nothing to do with
That's
this
not part of the
tonight's
discussion
meeting.
for the variance tonight. Could have, would have, maybe, possibly. We're talking about these variances and why they should or should not be approved, not what they could do or what they might do. And the criteria of whether it's self-created or not is one of 5 criteria that we have to balance. It's not the only one.
I understand.
Because in reality, in this board's history, we have a really hard time of finding any variance request that isn't self-created, right? Because the fact that they want to do something that's different than the code makes it self-created. It's very difficult to find a situation where the applicant didn't create the problem they're trying to solve, right? That's only one criteria of 5. It's not the determining factor. So,
Oh, but according to planning board, which in their recommendation, they said it is self-created. But
which is fine, but
my point. I'm sorry, I apologize. I just want to suggest that when they talk about the limitations that they're up against and all of that.
Mhm.
That's self-created, because you decided that. That's what I'm trying to say.
okay.
I also want to point out that there's no necessity to build a proposed supermarket in the same location as the existing factory building. And of course, there's no necessity to build a 57,000 square foot big box store in Fayetteville.
Mark, I think we need to bring some point or limit. time.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're gonna, so
it's
if,
over.
I'm gonna give you 10 minutes more to bring it to point with the things that are specific to this. Talking about whether we need it or we don't need it isn't relevant to this conversation. It's outside the scope of what we're deciding. So if you want to give me specific examples or give us specific examples to the board of why we should or should not grant the variance, we need specific examples, not what they could or might do or whatever. We need specific stuff. Otherwise, we're gonna have to move on to anybody else that wants to speak. We have other people in the room.
Thank you very much for being so generous to me. I do believe I'll say again that no ample opportunity to review, et cetera, or prepare or, but, so thank you for bearing with me under those circumstances, which are trying. I don't believe that I have my,
Marguerite, you keep saying you had no time to prepare. I just want to understand it a little further because all this stuff has been out last month with a couple minor changes this month. and it was out in the public notice and it's been available by all the required time. So what specifically was it there? The summary that was presented tonight was just the summary of what was presented in the thing to make it understandable so that when we discuss this, we know which piece we're discussing. So there's no new information. There's no new information on this piece of paper. It's all this just summarized so that we can keep track of what we're talking about. So what?
I believe Ms. Bell mentioned that they submitted a new narrative about the tests and the balancing test tonight.
No.
Well, a week ago is not sufficient time to, anyway, a week ago, but was it posted on the website and publicized a week ago? I don't believe it was. But I don't know, I said.
But tests are not germane to what we're talking about.
Right, and their summary of the test really isn't what decides us. We have to decide this, the balance of the test. They're just summarizing what their opinion is for our purview. I believe, Patty, was it published that when she sent the note out? So what, for the record, I just want to get on the record what it is you're concerned about, because it's important to have that information.
I wish I had the test rate. I had, okay, stop. Wishes for horses, beggars would rock, as they say. The tests, I'm looking for the tests. Okay. And you specifically want to know about how it impacts the neighborhood?
Yes.
It's not consistent with the neighborhood character, contrary to what they say. Because there are no huge signs like this. There's no big box store in the village of Fayetteville at all, anywhere. They say Honda's big, not as big as they want. It's not consistent with the neighborhood character. That's one test. And I could prove all of this given an opportunity. It's a detriment to nearby properties because it's not really true that that there's a natural barrier or something. So yes, it's very true that there's commercial development along East Genesee Street. But on 3 sides of this parcel, it's single family residential. 3 sides. I live west side, my street, west side, right abutting it. Cashin Drive, east side, abutting it, property. North side, several homes. May or may not be within the village of Fayetteville, but it doesn't matter because on 3 sides, it's residential. And the comprehensive plans for years and years and years and everything that the village has stood for is that you have to be compatible and respectful.
Marguerite, I'm gonna have to stop here because we're just going in a circle here that you haven't given us specific numbers. All you said is, they said it is, you say it isn't, and there's no, we understand there's neighborhoods there and we understand all of that, but there's no specific detriment that you're specifying to the neighborhood, right?
There is specifically. And
I give you 1 more minute to tell me specifically how it's a detriment to the neighborhood, then we're gonna have to open it up for other people to give their response if they'd like to speak.
the big box store, that 57,000 is detrimental to the neighborhood, the character of the neighborhood.
That doesn't deal with the signage.
That's all we're
It's
here
got
to do.
nothing to do with the signage. This
Signage
is just
is-
about the signage.
I hear that, but the thing is that the reason why they want the variance and large signs is supposed to be for visibility. Well,
Marguerite, can I ask you a question?
yes,
From 200 feet away, if I held up this piece of paper with 12-inch letters on it that said grocery store, would you be able to read it from 200 feet away? At this distance, this is about an inch. Can you read the top of this page from there?
Yes,
What does it say?
Costello.
Okay. How about this?
Yeah, I don't think you should.
Okay, the point is that the sign for a distance, there is some degree of safety concerned with driving, but I don't want to argue with you with a reading test. But I'm gonna move on to anybody else that wants to be addressed in the meeting at this point, because we're just getting into the circle argument here.
Thank you.
Thank you for your input. We appreciate it. Would you like to be heard, sir?
Just a brief comment here. I mean,
Can you identify yourself,
I'm
please?
Bob Pocket, 104 Cameron Lane. I live just to the south of the property. My backyard overlooks a good portion of O'Brien and Gear.
West.
West. I've been there for 18
Okay.
years. I've been through and spent in industrial, which was been extremely quiet. No light pollution whatsoever. But I've seen as a result of some of those variances that have been passed with regards to Honda and Circle K is that there's a fair amount of light pollution that occurs from those properties. And I speak to a barrier that's in the village, but it's only 6 months a year. We have no leaves on the trees from November 1st to May 1st. So half the year you actually,
Yeah.
from my back porch, I can clearly see the Honda sign, lights from the parking lot, lights from Circle K, and nothing from O'Brien and Gear. And that's just gonna be further exacerbated by granting of this variance. Where there's gonna be still more light pollution, not just my property, but those properties are even closer to that proposed structure. That's one of my concerns.
So light pollution is your concern?
Yeah, it's pretty, even now with those two properties that are across the street, now you can. It's, this looks like you live in a village, it's like you live on Erie Boulevard sometimes.
Yes,
That's my concern, man, that's the harm to the village, in my view.
There's a light pollution.
Yeah.
Okay, reasonable.
And then obviously, everything else, and the other concerns would be germane to the discussion today, so.
Thank you. Anyone else want to be heard?
Mike, you want to speak to the code of light in terms of light cutoff lights that are required by code that can't leave the property?
Street lights,
Right, but building lights, for instance, emergency lights that might be on the back of it, because I'm assuming you're on Camet.
Correct.
I think the challenge, I mean,
Okay.
light pollution is definitely something that's annoying, right? But the reality is whatever you put in that site is gonna have light pollution.
And that would not necessarily depend on, but no.
I mean, unless we put a park there,
Or another industrial use, which has been.
which is noisier and.
No, actually, not, no, by name.
Mr.
I'm
Chairman,
not,
And-
no,
just to be clear, we don't need any variances for the lighting of the
Right.
homes.
I understand that.
So that,
Right.
any light pollution that may be a concern, if it's from anything that would be from the site plan approval process or something like that, but that's not before the board.
I think the only issue you could have with light pollution is the actual lights for the sign, but I think that's minimal compared to the parking lot lighting, right? Which isn't before the board anyhow.
Right. So all of our lighting is.
It's not before the board
That would be
anyhow.
a 24/7, 365 in terms of lighting.
Actually, that would be a good point to explain each of the lights and each of the signs, whether it has backlighting or.
No backlight.
No,
backlight.
for all of those. That's what I'm saying.
There's no backlight.
So the monument sign only has the recessed LED lights within the capstone. And again, it was a suggestion of the planning board that be recessed to a significant of a sufficient, depth so that there isn't any glare. So there is no other illumination. The nameplate sign along the door, that secondary door for where the groceries pick up is, has no lighting at all. There's a canopy over the door. So people get requests or whatever from weather. There's lighting within that canopy, but there's no lighting at all for that sign. And then for the wall sign with the icon, there were 3.
It's the gooseneck lighting that's.
Yes,
Nose face. No, it's the other direction.
Face east.
Nose face
because
east. Right, no, but I'm saying those are on the east face. Absolutely.
to answer your question, to try to make it where there's only 0 volcanoes.
If I can, Mike,
Don't leave the property.
during planning board review, the lighting was looked at in significant and great detail. Berms were provided to the west side of the property line, lighting pole heights, cutoff shields, the Kelvin rating of the parking lot lights were all reviewed, discussed, and approved. And very cognizant of our neighbors to the west. So we looked at all of that during planning board review and approval. Of which, again, that very long process, I think we spent a whole 2-hour meeting talking about sidelights. So I don't want to rehash
No,
it, but I want
we
to let
don't-
this board know, we did a very thorough job.
Yeah, we don't need to rehash it because it's not before the board to
I understand.
consider.
I just, again, question came up, and
Yeah,
again,
no, I
we're
appreciate-
transparent as possible.
we appreciate that.
We are.
I would just like an answer to the lighting for the 24/7, 365 questions.
We're not 24/7, aren't we? I thought we were like.
Discussion.
As I said before, I don't believe we are a 24 operation, but I can't say with certainty, so I don't want to make.
Again, that's not before our board, that's a planning board issue, so let's not go down that rabbit hole because we don't need to.
We're closing the public hearing.
Oh, we just check with Patty, has there been any submissions?
No, we don't want to close the meeting. We don't want to close, we want to have a discussion. We don't want to close it.
Okay,
I can read this email for the record.
just so.
Next
it's part of the record. Thank you.
So for the record, it says, "Dear Ms. Worley, I am writing you about the important issue I have regarding a request for the new Hannaford, sorry about that, store construction application. It is in your documents that you submitted, by the way, it's on the documents that were in public record, so it's already kind of out there. But anyhow, it states that they want approval to erect the monument sign in front of the store right on Route 5. Due to its size, it definitely will be brightly lit. They say that it will have lamps that point down, but we all know that this will not reduce the amount of light on the sign. With all other businesses on Route 5 that exist, this will only add to the impact not only of the traffic, but now to lighting. If you approve this sign, then all the other businesses will want to apply to have monument signs in front of their stores also. This is not a precedent we want to set. It's bad enough that we even allow this store to be built. The impact our village look and energy. Allowing extra illumination will only add to the negative impact. We want to preserve what's left of our character in the village. Please make sure you do not approve this monument sign. Thank you, Randy Ludwig, Fayetteville Village resident. We received that earlier today, so that's why it wasn't previously available.
Could you spell the name, please, of the
Ludwig.
Ludwig?
Yeah, but his first name is Randy, or her first name is Randy. I'm not sure if that's a guy or girl, but
Okay, they give any indication of their address?
they did not.
Okay.
So with that said, where do we want to start?
If the board feels it's appropriate, we will close the public hearing. If on the other hand, the board needs additional information, we would continue the public hearing.
We can close public hearing. Do we need additional information?
So we,
don't know that yet. We haven't had discussion.
Well, do we usually have a discussion before we close the public hearing, or do we do?
after,
Okay,
public hearing is for the benefit of the public.
okay, so why don't we have our discussion and see where we're gonna go with this, then we'll decide if we're gonna do a continuation or not.
That's fine.
Because we're here, we've got to talk about it. We might as well start talking about it now. I don't think we need to put it off another month unless somebody has some real information that's not there that we don't have. So with that said, do we want to start with one and work our way through to the end? Because we have 8 of these to go through. So for process, we have to go through each variance. We have to do the 5 balancing tests, the seeker for each one at a time.
You're in the public hearing now?
Yes. Okay,
No,
No,
No.
I think
that should not be done during the public.
okay,
hearing.
well,
so. We didn't
This
close
just-
the public.
we
hearing.
should just
If there's
have
any
discussion first.
is there any additional discussion from the audience? No, then let's close.
Any discussion amongst the board about whether or not the public hearing should be closed or remain open.
Board doesn't have discussion before you close.
Well, that's what I said, but he just said no, so
Well, you don't need to make your decision during the public hearing.
Oh,
What you need to do is make sure the public has had its opportunity. And secondly, if the board has arrived at a point where it thinks, I'm not ready to make a decision, I want more information on this, that, or
Okay.
the other thing,
Does anybody
that's what
want,
we do.
okay, does anybody want more information to continue the public hearing for another month, or do we want to have a discussion about what we're gonna do with these variances?
Oh, what other information?
So unanimously, the board has decided they don't need any additional information.
So somebody would make a motion then,
I do.
Okay.
I do have a question because I read through the commentary that was sent from the planning board. And
Okay.
there were several questions put forth to the design and size of, for instance, the monument sign.
okay,
So we
limited to
don't-
the size. Everything else will be, what you will approve or disapprove as a variance with respect to the dimensions of the proposed signage. Not the signage itself, not the colors, not the words. You're talking the
Just sign,
dimensions.
just the dimensions.
So you
Okay.
either enlarge the playing field that the applicant and the planning board have when they consider signage, or you leave the playing field as the code has spelled it out. With respect to the design of the sign, and you're not approving a sign.
Right, we're
You're
not
just
approving
approving
the size. That's the planning board's job.
variations from the code's
Right.
dimension requirements.
So with that,
Even after this board is done, assuming it approves one or more of the requested variances, it all goes back to the planning board, and the planning board doesn't have to agree that, yeah, we'll go with that variance and we'll max this out. The planning board can still state to the applicant, we don't care what the CPA said. We think that based on what you're telling us, given the design, the colors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that we want you to reduce this, that, or the other thing to below what is authorized by the CPA.
so based on that, are you good for discussion tonight? All right, so unanimously, the board's good for discussion tonight on the 8 variances.
Okay,
Close the public hearing.
yeah, just go to the public hearing go.
Please,
Go ahead, ask what you want to ask.
I think I would like if you could consider doing how the planning board handled the public hearing. Which was. I don't think, for the subdivision anyway, what they did was they had the public hearing. And they decided to continue the public hearing,
We have that option if we needed further information, but
but,
since the board doesn't feel it needs further information, we're not going to continue the public hearing.
but. I was hearing you. Sort of
We were
do
discussing,
an either or thing, like either you're gonna close the public hearing and move on and discuss your decision, or.
the reason you keep a public hearing open is if you need additional information. And the additional information that she needs is the planning board's preview, not our preview, so she doesn't need further information, so therefore. No one else on the board feels we need additional input, so based on that, do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimously, we're closing the public hearing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your input. All right, so why don't we start with number 1,
Yeah.
work our way through.
Wait 1 second, I want to just make sure that between myself and Patty, we're prepared to take notes as the board does its discussion. So yeah, the board intends to consider discuss each variance, that's fine.
Why don't we start at 8, because that seems to be a good starting point for simplicity.
Okay, so the requested variance number 8 that I numbered was a variance for the total amount of signage located on the property. The code allows for 1 attached or 1 freestanding sign. The applicant has proposed 2 attached signs, a logo, which would be another attached sign, and 1 freestanding sign. That brings the total of signs requested to 4. where the code only allows for. So that's the variance number 8.
All right. Does anybody have issues with the number of signs?
Well, I do have a question. For the freestanding sign, is it double sided?
Yes.
So is that considered 2 signs
One,
or 1?
I said one.
1, okay. I just want that,
Yeah, because they count both sides of the sign for the.
well, some don't, so I wanted clarification.
So not to steal the show, but let me direct the discussion. We're gonna go through 5 criteria.
Yep.
Which the board's mandated to review with respect to each variance. So for the total number of signs, 4 requested versus 1 allowed. Will there be an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, or will there be a detriment to nearby properties?
No.
No,
And the reasoning behind no?
most of the signs aren't visible from the main street. They're set back a significant distance. The size of the stuff and just from a safety point of view of being able to egress the property and know where you're going is reasonable request.
Which really replaces the freestanding monument sign that's already there.
There's
Right.
also, there's also.
We're at the
No, I know.
site.
Sign.
There's also there's also businesses in the neighborhood that have exceeded the 1 number of signs, so
Okay.
it conforms with the character of the neighborhood.
Thank you. So, okay, the consensus seems to be that there will not be an undesirable change
Correct.
or detriments. Okay. Question number 2, could the applicant achieve the benefit by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance?
I would say it'd be difficult because of the distances involved and the size of the building. Yes, you could put up different signs of different sizes, maybe flashing strobe lights or something. There's certainly other ways you could draw attention to the front entrance, but I think based on the size of the building and the location, I don't think that they could achieve it any other way.
As I recall, the applicant's point, you could agree or disagree, was that if it stuck to the code, the signage would be pretty much functionally
Yeah.
useless.
I think they did a very good job with identifying that criteria pretty well.
Okay. Okay, question number 3, is the area variance request substantial? They want 4 signs, the code allows for 1.
I would say that is substantial request. Because of the number of signs versus what the code allows.
Okay. Any other input?
Nope.
I'm good with that.
Okay. Question number 4, will the variance, if granted, have an adverse effect on physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood?
No.
No.
No,
Yeah, no, okay, seems to be the consensus. If anybody wants to supplement the no with a because, let me know.
They're signs, they're not gonna have any impact on the environment. I mean,
Right.
they're signs.
Yeah, in other words, the footprint of the buildings from the building adding signs isn't. having
Yeah,
a
isn't gonna-
physical impact or
Exactly.
environmental impact.
It fits the zoning of
Yeah.
the area.
Yeah.
Too.
If it's existing signage and other businesses in the neighborhood.
And the 5th question for this variance was the alleged difficulty self-created.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know that.
As always.
You decide to build a really big building that needs really big signs.
But we're not talking about the size of the sign.
Not the
No.
And the number of signs, yeah. So yes, it's self-created.
Okay. So that covers the 5 criteria that the board's required to consider for sign or variance number 8. If there's any supplemental information anybody wants to offer.
Now, are we
Based
going
on-
to?
We're gonna make a motion to either approve or
For each
disapprove.
one of these.
For each one, we're doing one at a
Right.
time, just so we got something more to go. So do we hear a motion to?
Can't do it. Yeah, you can't act
That is.
on the sign. We were just, I thought, doing a preliminary discussion. If you want to act individually, we'll call a timeout. At this point,
Yeah,
address seeker, get that over with. The other alternative is have the discussion on all 8
And do them all at once?
reach a consensus as to whether or not you want to grant them as proposed or make change.
Well,
Individual signs.
So if we, so question for you, Ted, because this is rather complicated. So if we do seeker, we only have to do the seeker piece once. So why don't we just get the seeker out of the way and then just go one at a time? That way, if we have a problem with one, we only have to deal with one in the future instead of all 8.
That's fine,
Okay.
and.
Yep.
Doing secret for everything, I would, is appropriate, because you're not supposed to segment it anyways, so you wanna have just one secret resolution.
Yeah, so why don't we do
For all
one,
eight.
why don't we do the secret resolution first? That way, if we have a problem with one sign, we only have one sign to deal with next time. Or 2 signs or whatever.
So we can,
So what we're gonna do
we
is we're
can
gonna,
approve or disapprove individual signs, correct?
yes, after we do seeker.
What we're, right now, we're taking a timeout. We're putting the variance request aside. And we're gonna look at whether or not there's any environmental concerns that get triggered based on the application for the 8 variances. The applicant submitted a short environmental assessment form along with the application. That was informational. It provides information as to the site, the proposed variances, and provides information as to the physical condition of the property as it exists today. To supplement part 1 of the environmental assessment form that the applicant submitted, the board steps in and takes over part 2 of the environmental assessment form, and there's 11 questions I'll go through.
Okay.
For the board to answer with respect to the application for 8 variances. If the variances were granted, would it create a material conflict with the adopted land use plan or zoning regulations of the ordinance?
No.
Anybody disagree? Question number 2, if the variances were to be granted, would it result in a change in the use or intensity of use of the land?
No.
Yeah, signage is just signage. I don't think people are gonna come just to see the signs. Question number 3. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? So in other words, if the sign variances were granted and the signs go up, do you see that the character or quality of the existing community has been adversely impacted?
No,
Okay. Question number 4 asks whether or not granting the variances would have an impact on environmental characteristics that caused the establishment of a critical environmental area. And the answer to that is no,
No.
because the village does not have any critical environmental areas. Question number 5, would granting the variances result in adverse change to the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
No.
Question number 6. Would granting the variances cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonable available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
no,
Question number 7. Would granting the variances adversely impact public or private water supplies or public or private wastewater treatment utility?
no,
Question number 8. Would granting the variances impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
No.
Okay. Question number 9. Would the granting the variances result in an adverse change to natural resources, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, flora, fauna?
no,
Question number 10, would the proposed action, which is granting the variances, result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems?
No.
And the last question for the board is, would granting the variances create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
No.
Okay,
Do we need a motion to accept the seeker?
I'm gonna pass out a draft motion for you, or draft resolution for you to look at,
Okay,
summarize it for the board. Lot of whereases. So the first whereas simply. The board acknowledges it's required to do an environmental review under state law when prior to taking any action on applications. The second paragraph notes that the village has a history with this property and it's previously had an extensive secret review in 2022 when site plan and special permits were approved. And at that time, there was a determination of no significant environmental adverse impact. Now, this board has before it a request for variances. The board has had the opportunity to look at the environmental assessment form, which the applicant submitted, and the board has gone through part 2 of the environmental assessment form to help identify whether or not there are any significant adverse impacts. So down, you get to the point where the board here would be the lead agency for making this secret determination. And the last whereas simply states that we've gone through the application, the seeker submittals, and have done our due diligence and are in a position to make a secret determination. The resolution, the first item number 1 says that the board declares itself lead agency. We've examined the EAF pursuant to the regulations. B on the top of the second page is a declaration that technically under the secret regulations, this matters type 2. And then it involves accessory structures, totaling less than 4,000 square feet of additional material to the site or the floor plan. And therefore, it would be exempt from secret review under the secret regulations because it's type 2. It also notes that in section C, a type 2 declaration would be consistent with the board's findings upon review of part 2 of the environmental assessment form. So the final number 2 on page 2 is that we've got a negative declaration that will follow the clerk's office. So if the board's in agreement that after having considered environmental issues, there are no significant environmental impacts, and we're actually exempt on this one from having what we've done already.
all those in favor?
We can adopt the resolution. and
Adopt it.
move on.
Aye. Unanimously.
So seeker's done.
All right. Now we go back to number 8.
Yep, now you're back to entertaining the various applications. You started with what I identified as application number 8 to allow for 4 signs where the code would only allow for 1.
Do we have a motion to accept the variant or grant the variance?
So second.
Seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Okay, variance 8 is approved.
All right, let's move on to number 7. Which is the big sign up front.
6 and 7.
Yeah.
Okay,
Variance number 7 is with respect to the freestanding monument sign, and it's a variance from the code requirements as to height. They propose a freestanding monument sign that exceeds the code limitations. And therefore, they would like a variance
Just for clarification, Ted, is 6 and 7 the same variant, same part of the same variance, or is it two separate variances?
Well, 6 and 7 are,
They seem to be tied together because it's the size, the height of the sign and the size of the letters. They seem to be.
what is the height? And what is the overall square footage?
Okay.
Yeah. So. Resolution or variance number 7 is strictly for sign height.
Okay.
There's a limitation in the code of 6 feet,
5 foot.
5
5
foot.
foot, yeah.
Right.
And they're 6 foot,
They want
6
70.
foot 4 inches, yeah.
So it's 16 1/4 inch.
Great, still do 6 and 7 together, only because if we were to grant, for example, allow the height, then deny the square footage, it might be a problem.
Yeah, I kind of think,
That's fine.
I think we put 6 and 7 together because it's gonna be, it's gonna be the same 5
It's the
criteria.
Same sign, that's for sure.
6 and 7 together.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think,
so we'll do 6 and 7 together, sign height, sign square footage.
yeah,
Okay.
Here we go. Question number 1, would granting the variance result
Well,
in
should
a
we have discussion first?
yeah,
We need to,
all right, let's have discussion.
shouldn't we,
Well, we can have discussion. I mean, I don't think that the monument sign's a big problem considering there's a monument sign there already that's substantially bigger than this. Height wise, for sure. I don't know about width wise, but height wise, it's certainly bigger than this.
that's existing
That's existing, yeah, there was,
for the industrial.
yeah,
complex?
yeah.
I do have a problem with the height of it. Considering it's going right at the new traffic light. I'm looking at it and saying, why do they need, basically, a 7 foot,
They're asking for 16 inches of variance.
right?
No. The base of it's what's giving it the height, and that's probably to deal with snow.
You're going against the post office too, which is almost 7 feet tall.
Yeah.
The post office is a separate,
I know,
I mean, I'm
just
just
saying,
that's a
It's-
federal sign,
I know,
It
but
doesn't come
when
before
you're,
us, but-
I'm just thinking
just think that-
visually, you're coming up,
And-
If-
you're,
it's
they're
at the
gonna be in
main-
the same line.
right, but what I'm saying, if it's at the main entry, I don't see the need for it, because now you're stopping. If it was no stop light there.
Well, but if the light's green, you're not stopping, you're driving by, and quite honestly, coming up and all of a sudden, oh my God, that's the place that slammed their brakes on. It's a bigger deal than seeing the sign from a distance away. And to be honest with you, I go to the post office a few times a week and I'm always looking for the sign to find the entrance because the entrance is kind of hidden by trees there, especially in the wintertime with snowbanks. And I can't tell you how many times I've driven by the post office because they go, oh, there's that sign.
I also think,
Well,
I also think
it's-
it wouldn't necessarily, if I understood the presentation correctly, be that high if the planning board didn't require the stone base. They wouldn't need it to be that high, but we're requiring them to have the stone base.
Well, they're
Understood,
required to have the
No.
stone, the type of stone on there.
I think so.
But they wanted stone, but the height is there because of snow plows. If you look at like the post office in the wintertime, they plow the snow so high, you can't even see the entrance to the parking lot of the thing because the way the road is there.
Either way, I'm saying that the stone base does not need to be almost 2 foot 10 inches.
I agree, and I think that after a month, there isn't anybody who's regularly gonna be using that grocery store that doesn't know when you hit the stoplight, you turn left or right to enter the grocery store.
So what is the downside of allowing
It's
the
just
variance?
large. I mean, every time.
I mean, especially if you look
allow
at
a
it-
variance beyond the scope, then doing just like they've done. Here's what Honda did, here's what Circle K did,
Remember,
here's what the grocery store did, and on and on and on it goes. Why
you're
can't they
only
just make it
thinking of
16 inches
vehicular
shorter?
traffic. We are a community of pedestrians who walk in their sidewalks in this village. And if you look at the diagram here of a 6 foot tall, it's.
Well, it's gonna be taller than me,
Right, that's right, and
but
it's
if
a
I'm walking.
walking community, let me finish.
Sorry.
It's a walking community and I look at it and it's taller than a 6 foot person. The average height is not 6 feet, it's pretty high. I don't see the need for the monument side to be that high.
I agree.
I mean, from a pedestrian point of view, I don't know how a tall sign really impacts me. When I walk by a tall sign, it doesn't really bother me. It's, oh, that's a big sign. So then I don't understand the impact for somebody walking.
Well,
along
I
the
walk by there every single day with my dog and I don't wanna get hit by a car.
It's gonna be set back from the road. It's not gonna be sitting at the edge of the road. It's, how many feet back from the road is it? On the plan?
Well, first off, it's beyond the right of way, so the right of way is
So it's about 35 feet.
yeah, you're good 30 feet, because we're mandated by DOT, we're 10 feet back from the right of way.
So you're talking about 40 feet back from the road. You're not, if the car's gonna hit you on
Wait a
Route
minute.
5 because that sign's there.
Is it-
I
Come on,
I don't
let's-
have it exactly, we just, and I don't have a scalable plan here, but let's just go back to it. Which way he goes. So I'm gonna go to the graphic just so we can kind of see it and get to scale.
Sidewalk is.
So again,
Behind the
we're gonna be doing a
sidewalk.
road widening, okay? The location of that is sitting back quite a distance back from the sidewalk and the part of that is the visual impact. When you have a car queuing up to the red light and exiting the store, they have to be able to look in both directions as well.
Yep.
So that sign literally is sitting, when we talk about edge of pavement, how far back? It's probably approximately 30 feet back from the edge of pavement. And then that'll be 25 feet from edge of sidewalk.
Yeah, so that's not really obstructing anybody's view for hitting somebody with a car.
So
The house would obstruct the view of the site.
Well, and the snowbank's not gonna obstruct your view of it either then.
just
Well,
to get something to
that's not true.
scale, and
The
I'm not
snowbanks are pretty
exact,
high.
from me to the wall is about 30 feet.
I'm still saying I don't
No, I just-
see the point in,
Okay.
it for this particular sign that we need to be that high.
Okay. That's fair. Any other discussion or concerns about the sign? How about the letters on the sign, the width of the sign? Or actually, the square foot, I guess it's the square footage of the sign. Yeah, so the square footage of the sign is basically 3 times what's allowed. And that's counting the front and the back usually, right? That's the front and the back. of the sign
It
adds up.
includes the whole box.
Yeah, front and back.
The area is one side. Go back to that.
Mike, how does the code address the 2 signs for total square footage? Just count one side? Okay,
So
Both sides and.
all right, so it doesn't add it together.
So
the area that we're showing is everything you're seeing in tan.
Yeah, no, I understand, but
That's your sign face. So
some sign codes, like, I think the town of Salina counts both sides and adds them together for square footage. But I just clarifying if it was both sides or one side, but if the code says it's one side, and
So it's just the.
so basically they're only counting one side in square footage. They're not adding the 2 sides together and double the square footage. They're just saying the square footage is the side on either side,
And the code allows
60 square feet,
6 square
or
feet.
6 square feet, I'm sorry.
And they're,
Back, did you say it is again, Matt, on the road,
approximately 30 feet.
30 feet?
And realistically, the sign has to be fairly big because if people are going through there at 40 miles an hour, you want them to be able to read without
The
squinting.
speed limit is 30 miles an hour.
Well, it may be 30, but I drive it every day.
There's gonna be a stoplight there now too.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. You're making my day with that one, I'll tell you. But I'm retired now, so it won't bother me so much, but yeah, I can tell you, I have to catch myself going 50 through there all the time, so. And I'm usually going slow.
some.
Well, you can't arrest me for saying I go 50, you'd have to prove it. I don't do it intentionally, and I catch myself and I slow down. Better than Tesla, which does 70, but. Anyhow. Any issues with the
I have an issue with the width of the sign.
Just the
which is
height.
The square foot, yeah, it's just the height.
So what height do you think is reasonable?
The code height,
Which was 5 feet. Okay. Cool. Any other discussion?
I agree.
I'm okay with it the way it is, so mine.
What was the zoning board's?
The zoning board was.
I'm
The
sorry,
planning board was okay with the height. They have a concern with the height.
The
right?
only, their only comment was for the recess.
The lighting, yeah, the backlighting would have been. a
And the
no-go.
recess, because they had recommended a 4-inch cap, so that
We
you,
brought that up to them, and they said, they didn't think, they said, we're gonna add 2 inches to your sign.
so that what you're, well, this is why I asked the question. So are you proposing that it's 2 inches higher?
No,
No, okay.
and I'm just sharing with you what their comments were.
Okay. That was why I remember reading through it and I kind of like. at one point,
What part of the conversation was, can you properly take an LED strip and can you recess it so that no part of that strip is below? And if everyone nowadays, the LED strips are a minimal.
Yes, right.
So we're saying we're gonna router that groove in that cap and we can handle that within the cap that was shown. That was it's kind of a means and method question, not a plan.
Right.
So let's go through our 5 criteria.
Okay, here we go. Now, we're considering the freestanding monument sign, both with respect to its height and its overall size. Question number 1, would granting those variances result in an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or be a detriment to nearby properties?
I have a question, but before we do that, if we now are doing them together, we can't make comment, like, if we have issue just with the height versus,
We can separate the comments.
well, he's asking one
Well,
question.
he's asking one question, we can answer the question for both pieces in the same statement.
Yeah, you can,
Okay,
We can clarify it.
your comments can be specific to
okay.
either request. We only combine them.
Because we've done that before with multiple things where we've combined.
Okay, so question number 1, do we see an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood? Or will there be a detriment to nearby properties by granting these 2 variances?
Go ahead.
Let's say no.
I like to see the monument sign within code based on height.
I would say there's,
Does that answer the question that you
I,
think it's a
that's
detriment?
why I asked.
That's right, yeah,
yeah, that's, I would say no.
I would say. Say no. No.
okay, and it's you 4
Yeah, I think
that
you're
are voters.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate, we've got this 4 board,
Right,
so
so it's three
You know,
say no and 1 says yes.
the associates are.
Right.
We appreciate their input, but their votes, they don't vote. Under tonight's composition of the board. Okay, so 3-1. Question number 2. Is it possible for the applicant to achieve the benefit by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance?
Eventually, yes.
Yes.
Okay. And that would be what, reduce the size?
Reduces the height of the sign, reduce the
Okay.
size of the lettering.
Okey doke. Question number 3, are the variances requested substantial?
Yes.
Yes,
The size of the square footage of the sign is significantly more. A little over 3 times the size that's allowed, and the letters are, significantly larger. So yes, it is substantial.
Okay. Question number 4, will there be an adverse effect of physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood? Should the variances be granted?
No.
No.
And question number 5. Do we see that this difficulty was self-created?
Yeah.
yes,
So so those are the 5 criteria based on the board's discussion of those. There's obviously a mix of opinions on a few items. Notwithstanding that there's a mix, a resolution can still be proposed. And it will be voted on if the majority gets approved. If
Do we have a motion to grant or deny the,
I would move that we grant the variance.
we have a second on the grant?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Julia's opposed.
Julia opposed. Okay, so.
So that brings us to 4 and 5. But I think 4 and 5, we can probably combine too, because it looks again that it's 18-inch letters. And it's a nameplate difference in height. So I think we could probably combine 4 and 5 also, because it's the height and it's a combination of height and length. So they kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah. That's up to the board.
Makes sense to me.
Any of you reasonable? Any objections?
Okay, so we'll
Discussion?
discuss variance requests 4 and 5.
I mean,
Which
proportionally,
is for the
Luckily, the
grocery
one that says where.
it says, yeah, grocery is here.
pickup.
I mean, by the size of the building where it's located, I don't really see that as an issue. I want people to be able to see where they're going without struggling driving through a parking lot.
I'm sure I'll be using it, so.
Yeah, well, I don't like other people picking my groceries, 'cause they're not as fussy as I am, but a lot of people do that, so, but I don't think that that is an unreasonable request for the size of the building and the size of the parking lot, be able to see it from a distance.
I agree.
Any further discussion?
Julie, you got an issue with that?
All right, so let's go through our 5 balancing.
Okay, here we
Questions?
go. Will there be an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby property should variances 4 and 5 be
No.
approved?
No.
Okay. Can the applicant achieve the benefit by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance?
Yes.
I don't know, that's pretty small lettering.
Well, you could find it, you could find a different way to do it. You could, have a flashing light or something. Well, maybe not.
Without a variance, I think it's tough.
Yeah, I probably with the 12-inch letters, it's probably hard to do.
Matt,
So
you got
I
there
would,
with the
I would
splash
draw that there's another way to do it. I'll concede to that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are other ways. The question to presume is how practical and functional.
Is there another
Are they
practical,
gonna be?
is there another practical way of doing it? Probably not.
Okay. Question number 3. Are the requested area variances substantial?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the length of the sign
The length.
is pretty substantially different, and the height of the sign is a third bigger, so I would say that that's kind of substantial. Third might not be totally substantial, but it's
Okay.
approaching it.
Any other input on that? Okay, question 4. Would granting the variances have an adverse effect on physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood?
No.
No,
And question number 5, was the alleged difficulty self-created?
yes,
Okay. So having addressed each of the 5 criteria and offered input as to the impacts, the next question is whether or not someone wants to propose a resolution approving 4 and 5 or disapproving.
do we have a resolution to,
Second.
all those in favor?
I,
Aye, that was unanimous.
Okay. So we'll pass the groceries here sign. If we continue to work backwards, we're down to sign number 3, which is actually
3, 2,
the
and 1.
logo.
So-
That was part of the signage over top of the main doors.
Are we addressed to?
Yeah, so the question here is, do we want to combine these all into one? Because again, they're all kind of codependent, or do we want to break them into maybe 1 and 2 and 3? So 1 and 2 together and 3 separate. I mean, to me, they're all all go hand in hand. Because if you change any one of those, you're gonna have to change, if you change one of them, you're gonna have to change the other one to be proportionate and make it look good.
Just by way of clarification, on Matt's worksheet that I handed out and gave you the numbers. I think Matt originally made an arithmetic mistake. He said he needed a 42-inch
And it's
variance and he needs 52. So I corrected that by hand on the one I handed you,
Correct.
just so you know.
Okay.
So,
So I kind of think we should put those 3 together, just because if you change any one of them, you're gonna have to change the other to balance it, to make it look good. Any objection?
I don't know if that's true, but,
But one of them's only a half inch variance, so
Yeah.
that wouldn't be true, that statement would be true to that,
Yeah, I mean,
but combined together, it's fine.
I mean, an objection to combining the three together. No objections heard, so let's combine the three together.
So here we go. We're talking about the sign that. The signage that sits over top of the proposed main door, which includes a logo. And includes the groceries. The grocery store sign.
Want to have any conversation about it? Well, yeah, we're gonna have a conversation about it, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Go for it.
Anybody have any comments? Obviously you have comments.
I just wanted to.
Okay. Anybody have any?
1 and 2, I think, 2 is right. I mean, same thing, a 12-inch lettering, that distance is just
Yeah.
not practical. The other one is a half inch. I don't see that as inch, and it's just, then you come down to the logo. Square foot, square.
can I ask, what was we had a variance for Honda across the street?
We did.
And the size of that lettering. Because there was a difference between their logo versus their lettering.
we had to shrink that look, the eight.
Correct.
Significant.
Well, the H
Point,
got shrunk
especially-
as so did the lettering,
Yes.
Yeah.
and it's more than a foot.
Well, the H, I think if I remember correctly, the H ended up being 4 foot. Because they originally wanted like 12 or something ridiculous a bit.
So, because it was approved based on that panel size. The H was to be within
Right.
panel size,
Yeah.
and I don't think that's a 4-foot panel.
All we have in our sheet is that for Friendly Honda, and this is not the specificity that you're looking for, but the number of signs was the one thing they had to meet. Second was 3 of those exceeded the 12-inch lettering. The length of the signage exceeded 25 feet, and there was a height limitation. So
Yeah,
that's all we
yeah,
know. It doesn't have the
right.
specific.
Yeah, originally the H they had proposed was gigantic. You could see it from 1,000 feet away. And they had a secondary plan, which was what was approved, which is,
I just,
yeah,
that's.
I seem to remember somewhere around 3 or 4 feet. It's pretty substantial, but it wasn't anywhere near what they asked for.
Very unobtrusive. It's practically the same color as the building, and you're talking about a lot of color here
Yeah,
in
the only-
this side.
The only difference though is this sign is on a building that's perpendicular to the road, 400 feet from the road. You're never gonna see
Okay,
it.
I'm
from-
asking the question of what the height of that
Yeah.
lettering is
On Honda,
on Honda.
18 inch.
Is
The logo?
height-
The logo, the H.
No, the H is larger.
On the round part.
Yeah.
I believe, well, I know that the H is larger than the lettering, and that's what I was asking is
Yeah,
what.
the logo, the H logo, not the sign that says Honda, but the H logo.
No, but I'm asking for the lettering.
Those blocks are probably 3 feet.
Are you talking about the logo or are you talking about the Honda?
I said Honda. I wanna know
I'm just
the height of the lettering.
clarifying because I misunderstood.
Well,
I don't remember what the lettering height was.
That's
bigger than
12 inches.
I was gonna say, so Friendly doesn't comply either, and that's smaller than the Honda.
They had applied for a variance and a variance was granted. What they came in with was much larger than this, and what I'm trying to understand is, because I don't recall what the height of the lettering is for part of the discussion here.
No, I understand. I just asked the code officer if Friendly complied. He said it didn't.
No, they're not.
That they both needed relief.
Right. They needed relief, not just for those 3, but also because they had ingress and egress sign.
Jumbo block,
on the
like,
site.
they're too high. What are those jumbo?
I thought you were
blocks?
talking about the logo.
Are they 12s or 9s?
Talking about the letter.
It's larger than 12 inches, but I don't recall if it was 18 that we
I
ended up
think,
with.
I seem to remember 18 if.
But that, we would want to check the record.
But I'm not sure that really matters because we're considering a site that's different and it's not a precedent. The Honda is not a precedent for us,
20 feet off the road.
for us to go by.
But it's
Basically.
part of the discussion.
No,
I don't want to make up numbers. I'd like to know what the number is.
No, I
Just
understand.
straight answer on it. You guessing. But I know it's like 20 feet off the road.
Yeah.
Versus 200 plus, so. What do we want?
So going back to the grocery sign and, this, I mean, I don't know, I think this is definitely bigger than the Honda sign without a doubt.
Okay.
But it's 48, these letters are 48 inches. Those are no more than 2 foot. They're less than 2 foot. So
I don't know that.
I know that. I'm not saying that as an absolute. I'm just saying that this is substantially larger than that.
Okay. Here's some information I have.
Honda, and some of this is repetitive, but Honda had a total of 8 signs, so they needed a variance to add to 7 signs. They had 3 signs that exceeded the 1 foot height by 6 inches and collectively exceeded 25 feet by 10, actually 13. So the relief they sought was 6 by 10. They also had to get relief for the H, which was 6 foot high by 7.25 wide. The relief was 5 feet in height, although the width was less than 25 feet. So the area was 43.5 square feet, but the relief was 18.5 square.
Okay, so
that help?
basically that, yes, it does, because it means that the lettering, Mike, you are correct, that it's 18 inches for the lettering. And because the icon sign of the H was, they just needed it for the height. Cause
Right,
it's
so it's
different
6
from
feet high.
Right, okay.
Reduced.
Pardon? Correct,
It reduced pretty
Considerably.
substantially. Yeah. Yeah, 'cause that original one that
right,
came in
because
was
it,
huge.
I recall that we asked them to make sure that the H was within the panel size.
That's to make it great, one then,
Pardon?
and to make it great of one then.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
Yeah.
This one.
And they did have a secondary proposal that had it that size.
So-
Which was pretty interesting.
The analysis that was shared with me by the people who do the signage. And what I'm about to share doesn't totally apply because it was before it was reduced. Okay, so this was the original proposal that was 6 inches high. But it says the location of the Honda signs varies from 10 feet off to about 90 feet off the edge of sidewalk property line, with all but 2 small signs facing the street. And bear with me, this is the whole thing. Our monument sign would be not facing the street. The remainder of the signs would be 440 feet off the sidewalk and property line, not facing the street. Putting eye level perception into place. Visually, the 6 foot high H, 10 feet off the property line of the Honda would need to be 264 feet, 4 feet in height at 440 feet off the road to look the same, is what the comparison is. Conversely, the 6 foot 8 inch icon would visually appear to be 2 inches high compared to the 6 foot Honda sign. Just to give
Perspective.
right,
Okay.
if that helps.
Any other concerns, discussion?
I just had one other question about the logo. It only talks about height. So I get it where, is it a square? Is it a giant diamond? Is it a giant circle? We're talking only about height.
Well, that's what your code
That-
requires, so.
Yeah, that's the planning board's decision about the logo and stuff.
Only height. There's
Just-
nothing to
that-
consider about width.
What's on here, that's a variance for the box that logo has to fit in is our concern. How it's colored or how it's made out of is the planning board's issue, not ours.
It has to fit inside the.
It has to fit inside that rectangle.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no
So
problem.
On one, it has to fit inside 1 and 2,
No, it has to
No.
fit inside this rectangle.
1 and 3.
1 and 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I think the dimension for that rectangle is 8 foot 2 inches, and 1 is the rectangle for the grocery sign. The dimensions on the top. So there's no number on
Okay.
the width of that sign.
Right.
There's 5 foot,
We're just.
5 foot 4 inches high for the logo and 8 foot, 8 foot 2.
wide,
Yes.
but we're only concerned with the height.
Yeah, so that's all we're concerned about. Is the size of that box,
And not the lettering in.
not the lettering in it, or the, whatever the icon or logo is in there, that's the planning board's issue. Any other?
But there are words. It's not a logo, it's a sign with the word
The name of.
That again goes back to the planning, that goes
Right.
back to the planning board. That's not our issue.
If you want a
And- and
variance
the-
for it.
The public hearing is closed at the moment.
So that makes it confusing.
Any other discussion?
So basically what you've written here under 3 is you've written the 12-inch lettering height, but we're not talking steps that we're talking about zoning.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, just to be clear.
Yeah, this is what we're talking about right over here. On the square there.
Well, I'm also looking at what was handed out. Ted, you handed out attached logo number 3, and it indicates 12-foot lettering height
Yeah.
as the code requirement, but we're not considering that. We're only considering the square of the logo.
It's showing you that,
Let him answer.
So we're considering the height of the logo.
The height of the logo,
Yeah.
but not the lettering.
Right.
Okay, Well,
It's
just
kind of a
because-
reverse interpretation of code.
I understand,
Yeah,
but
it's screwy.
based on his chart, I want to be clear
Yeah,
that
sure,
we're not,
actually.
no.
Just-
So we're not
I do
considering the
represent-
lettering within the logo. Okay.
Right.
So.
So where it says lettering, we're, that logo.
right. He's just quoting what the text says, but the logo has to fit with it. The code looks at the lettering and a logo is the same thing, even though they're not the same thing. It's very poorly worded. And somewhere in this building, there's a whole new sign code we spent a year and a half writing. It's never been seen daylight, but anyhow, but that is one of the screwy things in the code with, it looks at it as a
I guess I'm
logo.
not understanding what the square is required by code.
It's not the square.
12 inches, okay.
Yes. The
But
left
that-
lettering.
So you could have letters in there. Or you can have a
Or
picture.
whatever,
12 inches,
okay, but it's 12 inches high,
correct.
and what they're asking for is 5'4".
H on Honda,
Okay,
it's a letter,
oh, right,
but it's
Okay.
also
all right.
the
So it's substantial.
medallion.
It's a screwy way the code's written on that one. Any other discussion? Motion, we've got to go through the 5
Yeah,
pieces.
so this is the review of the 5 criteria as they apply to the signage over top of the bay door. Is the 3 variances that are requested.
We didn't really discuss, we only talked about this, we didn't discuss the letters, if you want to do all 3 at the same time.
Well, go ahead, we'll talk about the letters then, that's fine.
That's what I was told a minute ago. I don't.
Yeah, no, that's fine, no, she's right, we didn't talk about the grocery sign, she's
Okay.
absolutely right. We
Yep.
should talk about that.
No, not about the lettering. If we're considering 1, 2, and 3 as one.
Yeah, we talked about that it was a half-inch longer, I think, or whatever.
Right.
But we didn't talk about the height of
We
the
didn't
letters,
talk
we didn't
about
talk about
the
the height of the letters, she's absolutely right.
We said that 12-inch height was not feasible.
Right,
so-
but we didn't talk about whether or not this is reasonable, so
Okay.
let's have that discussion.
Because they're asking for relief of 36 inches in height.
Absolutely.
I don't have an issue with the width. It's a half inch, it's not anything, the height is considerable.
It is, but again, it's not facing the street, it's over 400 feet away from the street, you're not gonna see it driving down Route 5. You're not gonna see it,
Actually, you will, if you're coming from the east and you're driving west, you will see it.
well, if you're looking that far to the right, I'd be concerned about what.
I checked this morning, this evening when I was driving in to the village, and you absolutely can see that facade.
All right, but again,
So I'm just saying that, to say that it's not seen is erroneous in the conversation.
all right, well. My opinion is it's not seeable from there because of other things, but. We have a difference of opinion there because the building that's existing is still standing there, so I can't visualize what it's gonna look like with the building gone, but. The bottom line is, I don't think the letters being that tall is unreasonable for a building that size to be easily visible. Struggling with seeing something and. Trying to look for a sign and running into things to me is more of a detriment than bigger letters.
Well, I will argue, you're talking about the building being so many feet from the road. Once you're on the site, you're not 400 feet away from the building, so
Yeah, but then you have the danger of pedestrians walking, people with shopping carts and, you know, people being distracted.
Why would you be looking up at the sign once you're in the parking lot? You know where you are, right?
Well, you will.
People do a lot of strange
I mean,
things
you will be looking at the sign. I'm just saying
to pick
that,
your,
um,
finding the door and
total
picking your
of
parking spot is something you do when you pull into the
48.
parking lot.
you're talking about 4 feet of signage and height once you're in the parking lot. So the argument of visibility from the road, you know, I think you can see it from the road because if you're coming from the east, driving west, you're gonna see it. And then the argument that, you know, you should have such a size sign once you're on the property is a big ask in terms
What
of,
would you propose? The code's 12 inches, which would be ridiculous.
and I'm not,
Sign.
I didn't
would-
say
so
that
you're somewhere
12
in between?
inches. Yeah, it's gotta be something in between that's more reasonable.
But again,
12 inches is way too small for this size building for that facade. I agree.
But it-
Aesthetically, that wouldn't work.
but I think aesthetically too, if you make the sign too much smaller, it disappears on the facade of the building.
I've seen this sign. Okay, we're not to talk about, you know.
Yeah, I've
what-
seen it, I've seen it too. I frequent there
right,
frequently.
and it's quite large.
It's a big sign, but when I see it, I don't find it obtrusive where I shop there up north. So
Okay. It's your opinion.
I know, that's okay. That's why it's a discussion.
Anyone else?
You know, I don't have a big problem with it, though.
All right, let's go through our 5 criteria.
Okay, here we go. Once again, we're looking at signage over top of the main entrance to the building, which includes a logo. And signage. Question number 1. Will there be an undesirable change in the character of their neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties if the variances were to be granted?
No,
Yes.
No,
I
don't.
say yes.
Well,
Julia says yes.
I say no.
no. So 3 no's and 1 yes.
And Julia's reasoning is that it's just,
The lettering is too big
okay,
in height. I have no issue with the length.
okay. And you guys,
I think it's okay. It's proportionate to the facade of the building.
Okay.
You know, the structure of the building, it's gonna look okay on that. Size wise.
okay, so
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, because you're doing them 3 together. So. And, yes, Marshall, Ms. Marshall's concern is with the height. But just to clarify, is there any concern with the board with the other annexes that are being considered?
We make note of it and if we had issues with the other ones, we make note of it in the 5 criteria. Yeah, no problem. It's a little confusing because we're kind of
To make sure.
putting them together because it kind of makes sense to do it that way.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you're specifically talking about item 2, the height of the.
So it just so for clarity, the logo sign, we don't have an issue with the height.
It's just item
Okay.
2.
So the,
just
item 2 is with what the issue that Julie has with the height. Otherwise, the other one, we don't have a problem with it unanimously for the logos part of that.
got it. Okay. Question number 2.
I know.
Did the applicant achieve the benefit by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than area variances for the signage requested over the main entrance? Logo included.
Be modified.
What's that?
It could be modified.
It could be modified. It could be a different size.
Okay. And that would still be practical in the boards.
Depending on how much it got on it.
Depending on what the size was, its potential.
Okay. Any other input? Question number 3, with respect to the proposed signage over the main door. Is the variances requested substantial?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, which one and why?
Well, obviously, the sign is substantially larger in height width wise isn't a problem, but height wise, it's pretty substantial. And for both of them, I mean, both of them are pretty substantial in request for
The
relief.
sign and the logo,
Yeah,
Yes,
okay,
for the height.
for the
Yeah.
heights.
okay. How about the length of the proposed
No.
sign over the door?
No,
Okay. Okay, question number 4. Would granting the variances have an adverse effect on physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district?
no,
Then the last question was the alleged difficulty self-control.
yes,
Okay. So with respect to the signage over the main door, including the logo, there's yeses and nos with respect to the 5 criteria. The board's challenge is to balance the yeses and nos, and if someone propose a resolution with respect to the request.
I propose we grant the variances as.
second. All those in favor? Aye,
No,
Okay,
3 yeas and 1 nay.
3-1. Okay, variance is approved. Okay. That's,
I think that's all of them.
yep. Moving our way through. Completing secret with completing the variances, so. At this point, the board's business for the evening. At least with respect to agenda, item number 1 is completed.
Minutes means.
Do we have any?
Sure.
Thank you.
Very much.
Yeah, remember what agenda item number 2 was.
Number 2 is the minutes.
Minutes.
Yeah, any corrections or changes to the minutes? I didn't see any.
I wasn't here, so I can't come.
I wasn't here either.
So all those in favor,
Yeah.
You can still vote.
Yeah, if you want to.
All right, then I'll vote.
all those in favor of approving? Yes.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Any new business before the board?
If anything comes up, Monday, April 20th would be the next scheduled
Okay,
meeting date to go to the board.
and do I hear a motion to adjourn?
No moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This is the longest, for the last 3 years, if we put all of our ZBA meetings,
6 minutes.
listen, if we put all of our ZBA meetings together for the last 3 years, we would not equal this one.
Did you send
It's that long presentation, and then you'll have an attorney have the floor on top of that, oh my God.
Grew up.